Welcome to Azeroth United, a weekly podcast about World of Warcraft. My name is Denethar, and I am your host.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's Wednesday night in Azeroth, and we have a great show for you. We're going to be talking about Phase 3 of Mists of Pandaria Classic, the Throne of Thunder, or the Thunder King. And we'll also have a little bit of Legion Remix news, some WoW housing news, a lot to talk about, so much to get to. So pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and enjoy. And as always, before I get started on all the news, I will do a quick rundown of what I got up to last week in World of Warcraft. I finally did dip my toe. And when I say dip my toe, I literally jumped into the pool of player housing. I went all in and really tried to build a cool house. And I feel like I did a pretty good job. It's not the greatest house, but my wife got on and she started building her house, and I got me going, and so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna build my house too. And so and we have very different design aesthetics. Our houses are very different, but having a good time. Because I have two Battle.net accounts, I have two houses, or two Alliance houses and two Horde houses. So I have four houses, really. So that's a little weird, having to do it twice. And then it's like, oh, I've got to go get more fence parts. I've got to go get more beams or whatever. So that's been a little weird. But overall, I'd say I really like the feature. If I had to, well, I'm gonna give all my complaints and my thoughts on the feature, and how I think that Blizzard can improve it and what I think they're going to do going forward. We'll do all that next week. I'm going to do a full housing episode. It's going to be the player housing extravaganza, the calm before the storm as we get into the final days before Christmas here in the States. So so there you go. That's what's going on in player housing. So it's been weird because I don't like to when I'm doing things in my house, I don't want to go through and I'm going to copy somebody else's build, but I lack the imagination to go through and come up with a build on my own. So I need a little bit of guidance, but once I see something, it's like, okay, now I can come up with an idea of my own based on this original idea. So I'm really good at copying somebody else's idea and twisting it and making it my own, but I can't come up with something original. So I guess that's what it is. Housing has been really fun, and really enjoying that. I will say the one thing that I think is really cool about it is that because there are so many pieces of decor all around Azeroth and pretty much everywhere, you can get stuff in the Shadowlands. You're seeing people going around and doing stuff, and not just going to the vendor and buying stuff, but they go, oh, I need to do this achievement, I'm going to go do it. And so people are running around and actually doing achievements and doing quest lines and trying to farming currencies. I don't have a lot of war resources, and a lot of cool stuff comes from BFA, so I've got to go farm that stuff. So it's been really cool to see the world being alive. I love when Blizzard does these sorts of things that make Azeroth feel alive again. And that's how I feel about player housing. I feel like they've done a really good job of making it just feel so exciting to be playing World of Warcraft. So, and then we're all going into our houses and decorating, and there's a lot that Blizzard can do to improve there, but we'll get to that next week. So aside from housing, one of the things that I did was, so I have two druids. So my second druid, he was 72, and I was like, oh, I need to go do the Defias, or not the Defias, the Westfall quest line, where you have to figure out who's the villains. Oh, turns out it's Vanessa Van Cleef, spoiler alert. And so I went to Westfall and I started doing that quest line, and I took my druid over there because I thought, well, he's 72, maybe he'll get a little bit of XP. He's still going to one-shot everything, so whatever. So, and I was getting 200 XP for this quest and 50 XP for that quest, and whatever, it was fine. But then I saw the quest for the pet battle, which is a daily quest, one of the NPCs there in Westfall when you first get there. And I thought, oh, I'll just do that real quick. That's, it's an easy quest. I've got level 25 pets. I'm going to stomp this person. And so I did it, and it gave me like real XP. It was something like 15,000 XP And I thought, wow, I could probably level up doing this sort of thing. So I went and did the one in Elwyn Forest as well, and that got me to 73. And so I finished doing the Westfall quest line, and I thought, well, I should probably run some time walking on this guy, get him leveled up. So I did. I joined the queue for Shadowlands time walking. I got Spires of Ascension, which still sucks, by the way, in case you were wondering. It's still a terrible dungeon. And so I did that, and I had a lot of fun. But as I was going, I think it was after we killed the first boss, I leveled at 74. And I thought, wow, this is fast. By the end of the dungeon, I was level 76. I ran another one, which was Halls of Atonement, and that one got me to 79. And I was like, well, I don't want to do another one and ding a third of the way in, so I'd rather just go do one other quest, and then I can pick up the quest to do 5 that'll give me a piece of hero trek gear. So I did that. I did like one world quest, and I leveled, and I thought, this is crazy that you're leveling so fast, because Blizzard nerfed the amount of XP that you need to get from 70 to 80, which, okay, so we did know that was happening, but I didn't know it was going to be this extreme. And just the time walking quest alone gives, I think it was, when I looked at it, it was level 73, and it gave 89,000 XP, which is way more than you need to go from 73 to 74. So just completing the quest gives you a full level plus some. So the whole thing is just wild. Anyway, I had some fun with that. That character is one that I've played for a long time, but he retired at the end of Mists of Pandaria. And it was after the Throne of Thunder. So we'll get into that in a little bit, but it was a rough time in the guild, and I ended up having to do things on that character that I didn't want to do, but I had to switch him to balance, and it was a nightmare. So long story short, I was playing as a healer, and they decided that we already have a druid healer, so why don't you switch to balance? So I switched to balance, and I was terrible at it. I could never get the eclipse, the lunar and solar eclipse timing just right. It was not good. That to me was the beginning of my frustration with Blizzard's modern combat styling, the way that they have you, oh, but if you do this, but if you're doing that, and if you do this other thing, then it will give you more damage. And it's like, well, can't I just push a button and do damage like a normal game? But no, we have to build all these basically combo points, or combo moves that allow you to do real damage. Everything else is just piddly damage. So that was frustrating, but so that character has been around. He's actually a vanilla character. I just don't play him because I retired him at the end of MoP, and I refuse to ever play him as balance again. I don't care what they do with balance. I'll pick another druid and play that druid. This druid will only ever be guardian and feral, and that's that. Occasionally he'll throw on a dress and go heal, but otherwise that's it. He only does feral and guardian. So anyway, so that was fun. So I got the druid to 80, and so I think that brings my total up to, what do I have now? 16 level 80s, which is ridiculous. No, I have 18 because I have 2 Legion remix characters that are at level 80. So yeah, so that's fun. But the other thing that I did last week was I'm still playing Anniversary Classic, and so my warrior, he's 51 now, but I went and did a Mordon run, and it was one of those cursed Mordon runs where you get in the group and you're like, oh, this is gonna be great. And then we got a tank who was 46, and I thought, well, that's a little low. And the healer was 46, priest, and I thought, that's also a little low. So I said, well, let's give it a shot. Let's try and see what we get. And it went about as well as you would think. We had some difficulty. We got through most of the place. We got purple side done. We got orange side done. I got all my quests done except for the quest to kill Princess, because we got to landslide, and the warlock got booted off onto the ground 1,000 feet below, or however far that is. And so the priest went down to try and res them and pulled aggro. So we went down to try and save the priest. The druid tank went down to try and combat res the priest, and then we ended up pulling a patrol and we wiped. And so at that point, I think everyone was just done, because we had been in there for an hour and a half at that point. It was rough. And do not recommend taking characters. I mean, if you're just doing the orange or purple side, it's fine. 46 is fine. If you're going to try and kill Princess, 46 is too low. That's not bueno. So anyway, that's what we did. But I like I said, I got all my quests done. I'm 51 now. I've been running around Searing Gorge trying to finish those quests up, and I still need to get back into Maradon, and now I'm working on Sunken Temple. So I love the way Classic ramps up as you're going through your 40s. It's a slog, and you're like, especially on the Alliance side. I don't know on the Horde side. On the Alliance side, when you go into your 40s, it's so difficult because there's just not a lot of quests. You end up grinding a lot. It's rough. But once you get to 50, it actually goes really fast because now you've got Ungoro, you've got Fellwood, you've Searing Gorge, and then you move into like Western Plaguelands and the Blasted Lands. It goes up really fast. Burning Steps is the other one. So yeah, I'm having fun there. I'll get him to 60 and probably just run around farming a little bit and prepare for the Burning Crusade. So yeah, that's what I got up to last week. So anyway, not a whole lot of like really exciting content. Now I've talked about it, for however long, but it's fun to get in the game and do a lot of different things. So before I do the news, I will. So I've got a forum post of the week, and I might need to rename this segment because I keep picking YouTube videos as the forum post of the week. But this one comes to us from Bellular. And if you know Bellular, you know that he's one of the top WoW YouTubers out there. He doesn't do as well on streaming. I think he does stream on YouTube, but most of his content is based on WoW YouTube videos. He does other content too, other gaming content. And I like him. Sometimes I don't agree with his takes on things. It's like, well, I don't know. That was kind of a whack take on whatever. But I think for the most part, he's good. And I like the way that he presents things. He does a lot of research, or he and his team do a lot of research on some of these topics. So it's really good to watch his videos, even though I don't always agree with him. And sometimes I feel like he's kind of doomer when it comes to WoW and Blizzard. But regardless, this one was really good. This video is called Why WoW Stopped Feeling Like Warcraft. And before you think, oh, it's about, put the war back in Warcraft, it was actually a really interesting video about the lore in World of Warcraft and why it was that at the end of BFA, the lore seemed to flip on its head. And we got this weird 360 on the lore. We went into the Shadowlands, and it was like, where did all of this come from? I think we have at least a clue as to where it came from now based on this video. So he's talking about Steve Denuser. Steve Denuser was basically the head lore person at Blizzard after Chris Metzen left. So Steve Denuser did all of the Battle for Azeroth lore. He worked on some of that, and then also did Shadowlands and Dragonflight. So he didn't do it by himself. There was still some Alex Afrasiabi in there, and there were some other people that were still kind of guiding things. But Steve Denuser was the main lore person during that time when those expansions came out. So a lot of people blamed the weird storyline on Steve Denuser, which he never bothered to refute because he's like, I'm not going to fight with people on the internet. It's dumb. So anyway, what Bellular details in the video, and I would highly recommend you watch it because I'm not just going to try and redo his whole video here. I'll just give you a quick recap. Basically, Steve Denuser used to work on a game called Kingdoms of Amalur, which is a single player RPG, and the lore in that, they were trying to create an MMO out of it, and they never got that far, but he created a bunch of lore for it that is basically about the main character breaking the machinery of death, and you have to go and fight death himself, and he's got chains, and it's just like the jailer. And then there was a race of people that were night elves or elves defending the world tree, just like the Heronir are elves defending the world tree. There was a lot of lore in there that if you look at what he did on that game, and then you look or what he planned for on that game, and then look at what he did in World of Warcraft, you can see the similarities and why it is that the lore changed suddenly. And I don't think it was necessarily bad. I think it was just different, and most WoW players weren't ready for that. Now we have Chris Metzen back, and Chris Metzen is putting the lore back where it goes, so to speak. And that really begs the question, is Warcraft lore actually Warcraft lore of if Chris Metzen's not doing it, because I think a lot of people only like the lore that he did. Anything that he didn't work on, they're like, that's garbage. So I don't know. I feel like it's kind of setting up this weird expectation of, hey, if Chris Messin's not there, it's trash. But regardless, I would suggest you watch the video. I'll put the link in the show notes so you can check it out at your leisure. But it's a really good video, and it shows how Chris Metzen took what Steve Denethar had done and modified it and tweaked it to give us the World Soul Saga, which is why the War Within feels a little janky at times. You're like, this is odd. Why are we suddenly going to undermine, or why are we suddenly doing this? It's because he had to take what was already there and twist it to make the World Soul Saga, because Steve Denethar had just been planning WoW expansions. There was no overall saga. That was a Chris Metzen idea. So anyway, check that out. It's a really good video. It's about 20 something minutes long. So make sure you have a few minutes to watch it, but it's definitely worth the watch. So, all right, that's it for that. Sorry. I really liked it. It was a really good video. So, and then let's move on to the news.
It's time for the news.
In Blizzard news, so let's start off with Classic, the other Classic, Anniversary Classic. So the PTR testing for the Burning Crusade pre-patch is up now. And they also have a PTR for the Burning Crusade itself. So we've got the Karazhan raid. It was on there last week. I think they did some testing on it. People were frustrated because it's post-nerf, and so it's super easy. But it's like, okay, come on, stop trying to make Classic difficult. It's not supposed to be hard. That's not the point. Anyway, yeah, so the PTR is up for Anniversary Classic. So if you want to go check that out, there's no raid testing anymore. They might do some more testing. I think there was a lot of bugs in Karazhan because they had to. So when they released the Burning Crusade in 2021, was it 2021 or 2022? I think it was 2021. Anyway, when they released the Burning Crusade Classic the first time around, they used one client, and now they're on whatever, the War Within clients. They're trying to unify everybody across the same WoW client, just make the game look differently and behave differently. So they're having a little bit more trouble having Karazhan work in the Burning or the War Within client. Anyway, doesn't matter. Because there's no testing right now. There's nothing planned, but who knows? Maybe there will be. So yeah, that's where we are on that. We still don't have a release date for the Burning Crusade Classic Anniversary Edition, but it will be here. The pre-patch anyway will be here next month, so that'll be pretty fun. January 15th, I believe, is the date for the pre-patch. Okay, and then the other thing that I wanted to mention is they are using the Dragonflight style UI, the customizable UI that you can go in and edit. It doesn't work great because they removed a lot of features because it's the Burning Crusade. It's not Dragonflight or the War Within. And so people are complaining about that. It's a little frustrating. Regardless, you're going to be able to customize your customize your UI. I've been working too much. You're going to be able to customize your UI in the same way that you do in modern WoW. So there will just be some slight variations in the Burning Crusade version of it, but it's the same idea. So anyway, that's coming. And so, yeah, there you go. All right. In modern World of Warcraft, let's start with Legion Remix. In Legion Remix, Phase 5, Infinite Echoes is now live. That went live on Tuesday the 9th. So here's what we got, and then we'll talk about what we didn't get. Item level was increased to 779, which, first of all, why 779? Why not just 780? It's a nice round number. It's so much easier. Why can't we have things that end in zeros? 740 was cool. Let's have 780. Gain 40 item levels. No, we're going to gain 39 item levels. That just feels odd. They did increase the amount of infinite power that you gain. So you're going to be able to get your artifact weapon leveled up faster and get closer to that 999 verse. And then they added in a way to convert your motes of broken time into fragmented mementos of epic challenges. So it's going to go 10 motes for 10 fragments. And so if you're geared all the way, but you don't have all your verse, then you can. It's weird. They're really trying to give people more power, and I feel like people already have a lot of power. There's a new thing that you can get a XP buff, a 3% XP buff for completing the research quests. The buff will last for 12 hours and it can stack up to 10 times. You can get 30% XP for 12 hours. I don't know. I guess that's cool. I mean, if your artifact weapon is leveled up, I mean, you should be getting 300-400% XP increase. So I don't know who that's for. Maybe people who want to jump into remix now at the end. Maybe that's what they're put that in there for. That's fine. There's new rare spawns and new rare spawns, which is the Lost Legion Infernals, and so they're going to drop loot like a rare spawn. And then there's multiple world bosses are going to be up at the same time, so you can go and kill multiple world bosses a day, which is also really good for getting more fragments, because I think you get 30 fragments if you kill the world boss on Heroic World Tier. So that's cool. And then finally is the Goodbye to the Infinite quest line, which is weird. It's like we're saying goodbye, but we still have a month and a half to go. So, but yeah, I guess there's a rift opening up in the sky above the little bazaar area that you hang out with the Infinite. And so, yeah, that's going to consume everyone. And so you have to evacuate the timeline quickly in like a month and a half. Okay. So that's what we're getting, or what we got in Remix. What we didn't get, there was no real bronze gain to be had. You're going to get more gear, more drops, but you're not getting more bronze specifically, which to me is weird, because that's the whole point of the remix. The point of the remix, yeah, you want to be powerful and kill one-shot raid bosses. That's fun. But the real thing that people are trying to get out of this is the mounts, the transmog, the toys, the pets. That's what they want. The housing decorations. You're not getting that without more bronze. I mean, you can farm your bronze and that's fine, but they should have given us more bronze so we could farm it faster. I don't know. I feel like that's a lost opportunity. Maybe it'll happen at some point here soon. Maybe they'll give us another patch that will increase the amount of bronze that we acquire. It just feels a little odd. And the other thing is, with all of this power that we're getting, we're not getting any sort of infinite power transferred to our alts. In MoP Remix, we actually got that. Our cloaks gave us more power for our alts. So the more powerful your main was, you'd log onto an alt and you were just blasting everything. We're not getting that this time around, at least not yet. So I don't know if it's... I feel like people were holding out to see what we were going to get this phase because Blizzard was being mysterious about it. And then we didn't get anything good. I mean, we got more power, which is great. But what people really want is more bronze and power for their alts. So I don't know. It just feels weird. I find that sometimes Blizzard doesn't really know what it is that the players want. Blizzard thinks they know what the players want, and they offer things to the players that the players might want, but it doesn't always translate correctly. And it's not that Blizzard doesn't know what WoW players want. It's that they can't always present things in a way that is going to give players satisfaction. Maybe to technical reasons, maybe there's something else going on behind the scenes, but regardless, it doesn't feel good to have this thing that you're like, ooh, this would be so cool if they did this. And then they go, how about this other thing? And you're like, well, I guess that's okay. It's just not what I wanted. So it's like when you ask your parents for something for Christmas and you get a different thing and you're like, well, I guess that's cool, but you asked me what I wanted and I told you, and then you got me something different. So what's the point of all this? Anyway, Legion Remix Phase 5 is now live, so you can go check that out. I logged onto my Remix character for about 5 minutes the other day, and that was it. I have no Remix time in me right now. I'm too busy building a house and leveling up in Classic. Remix is just not giving me that fun that I was, I guess, hoping for. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening, and maybe Blizzard will completely change the game again for the next remix, or maybe there won't be another remix. I don't know. This one felt weird with the timing, because the last time we had a remix, it was season 4, and everyone was pretty much done. Season 4 is like a fake season. This time feels odd because they basically cut the legs off of the season 3 Maniforge Omega, and people are still out there trying to get ahead of the curve or cutting edge. People are still trying to get title in Mythic Plus and PvP. So yes, people are still doing that, but there's so few people doing air quote real content because they're either doing remix or they're building their house. So it just feels a little odd. And so maybe Blizzard could work on their timing a little bit. I don't know. I think that that's something that they should probably address. Anyway, that's what's going on in Remix. As far as the player housing, so there's a few things that I will talk about here that Blizzard has changed. But like I said, next week I'm going to do a full housing episode, and so I don't want to get into kind of the what's and whys and how I feel about it. I'll save that for next week. So what they have done, though, a couple of things to be aware of, a public service announcement, if you will. I saw these on, I think it was on either on Reddit or on Twitter. One is you can earn extra free decor if you do the neighborhood quests on multiple alts. So there's the one quest where you have to do the treasure hunt and you get a free piece of treasure at the end. Well, you can do that on everyone. And you'll get a free piece of treasure on everyone. And the quest is random, so you'll get a different piece of furniture from doing your quest. So if you are trying to get some free pieces of furniture and you feel like doing a riddle, go do the neighborhood quests. You can't look them up very easily because they all have the same name, but it's pretty basic to read through and go, oh, okay, they're talking about over here by the river and by the waterfall, whatever. So, so that's just something that you could do. If you have multiple alts, you don't have to just do it on the one character. You can take any character over that you want. It's your house, and all of those characters are you. The class order hall has decor that you can get, and you can purchase it in Legion Remix. So if you don't feel like leveling up a character and going through the whole thing in regular WoW, you could always do it in Remix, especially if you have a bunch of Remix alts because maybe you wanted the mounts or whatever the reason is. You can go get that stuff in your class order hall. So I've been just going to the regular class order hall because I already have pretty much every single one unlocked, but not everyone does. Not everyone has 18 level 80s. Don't get me started. All right. So just some things to keep in mind for your housing collecting activities. Blizzard saw what we were doing with the exterior of the houses and realized, okay, we can bump up the budget a little bit. So it went from 200 to 250 at house level 3. The reason they have it so low is because that puts a load on the server because it has to have everything available. All the decor, all the ridiculous things that people are doing has to be able to load in for every player that's in the neighborhood, and not just people that live there, maybe the people that come to visit. So they wanted to keep it low intentionally so that they don't overload the servers and have people not be able to fly around Razor Wind Shores or Founders Point or whatever they're called. I'll get the names right eventually. So just something to keep in mind, that they probably will increase it again, just not right away, because they are monitoring server performance and making sure that everything runs smoothly. You do want a smooth game, right? You do want the game to function correctly and not be chonky and slow because people built transformers out of their houses. Speaking of which, Blizzard acknowledged the fact that people were putting their houses up into the air. And so they said, okay, we see it, we get it, and we're not going to be the fun police this time. We're actually going to build that into the UI so that you can raise your house above the air. But two things to keep in mind. One, the bottoms of the houses are not filled in, so you can just look up into somebody's house. It just looks weird. It's not rendered because they never intended it to be floating in the air. And two, you need to be able to make sure you can get to your front door. So if it's really high up in the air, obviously you can get there with a flying mount, but sometimes it's hard to land. So maybe you want to put like a rock or a platform or something there that you can land on so that you can go in your front door, or so that visitors can come to your front door. Maybe you don't want visitors. Maybe that's why you put your house up in the air in the first place. I don't know. But yeah, there was the guy that put his house, or person, I shouldn't say guy. There was the person that put their house up in the air and then built arms and legs like a giant robot coming out of the house. It looks like Voltron or a Transformer or something. It was pretty cool. So, I mean, people are getting really clever and creative. So those are two changes that they made. And then the final thing is they teased the Hearthline Armillary, which is going to be available at house level 6. On the live servers, we don't know what the reward for 6 is, but on the beta, you can see that it's the Hearthline Armillary. But they told us what it is, and it actually will set the ambient light in your house to different lighting types, daylights or the defaults, or kind of like a darkness mode or whatever it is. You can set your housing to be a certain type of lighting, and then you can accentuate that with different candles and different light options available. So that's really cool that they're trying to, because they know that it's not just about decorating, it's also about a vibe and having kind of a certain feeling about your house. So I think that's really cool. I'm glad they're doing this, and they're actually telling us stuff, which they don't always do. So anyway, that's what's going on there. Like I said, we'll get more into player housing next week. We'll do the whole episode will be pretty much dedicated to player housing. For Midnight, there's two things that I wanted to mention here. The Season 1 dungeon testing is taking place right now while we speak. It's going to run until December 16th. And so you can test all of the Season 1 dungeons. They did do a tuning pass on some of the legacy dungeons. So that's Pit of Sauron, Skyreach, Seat of the Triumvirate, and Algathar Academy. So I guess they're just trying to make it work better with the new style of combat and no add-ons. And the game is a different type of game than it was when those dungeons released, especially something like Pit of Sauron, which is Wrath of the Lich King, or Skyreach, which is Warlords of Draenor. Those are very old dungeons. And so Blizzard has to modernize them in a way that works for Mythic Plus without changing the feeling of the dungeon. So it's probably really tough to get that just right. If you remember Throne of the Tides, that was one that it got a lot of changes throughout the course of whatever that was, Dragonflight Season 2. And it was rough for a while trying to get that to be just right. But they finally kind of got it just right. And it was okay. I just, the thing with these old dungeons coming back is that there's so much work that has to go into modernize them, because modern dungeons are built completely differently. So I don't know. I almost feel like if Blizzard is going to continue changing the combat system and tweaking things, maybe they should give up on this whole idea of bringing back legacy dungeons and just build the dungeons. I don't know. See, the reason that we had a seasonal affix before is because Blizzard was like, you're going to be running the same 8 dungeons over and over and over again. We're going to give you something to mix it up every season. So instead of doing a seasonal affix, we're getting 4 legacy dungeons every season instead. And I don't know, it just feels weird. So we'll see what we end up doing with that. If Blizzard can successfully tweak these to make them work for Mythic Plus, great. I'm just thinking even Algathar Academy, that one's going to be really tough with the new way of doing things with the kicks and with no add-ons and all of these different things. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. So that's what's going on there. So remember, Midnight Season 1 dungeon testing is on the beta right now, so you can check that out. And then the final thing for Midnight is the Transmog preview that was is a video that was done with Farts Gaming, who I've never heard of, but he's really funny. So I was like, all right, that's pretty cool. Farts Gaming did a video previewing the new Transmog 2.0 system. So the things that he was talking about is like, so you're going to transmog your slot, not your item. So instead of transmogging your gloves that you just got, you've transmogged your hand slot. So any gloves that you put on will get that transmog. You can create multiple transmog sets and save them and apply them whenever you want. And once you've saved a set, you can apply it without paying an additional cost. You can just flip your gear to different sets freely. Now, if you want to change the transmog itself, which items are being transmogged onto your set, you'll have to pay for again. But once you've saved it and you're done, you can apply it whenever you want without paying any more gold. You can unlock more sets. The first 2 are free, and then I think you can go up to 50 with gold. Now, when Blizzard first put this on the beta, it was very expensive. It was like 800,000 gold to unlock all your slots. I think they reduced it by something like 80%. So I don't know what the current amount is, but it's a lot less. And it's Warband account bound. So once you unlock the sets once, you won't have to unlock them again for anyone else. So that's really good for collectors, people who have lots of alts, people who love putting on all their transmogs. As soon as your main unlocks all these transmog sets, your alt can come on and have access to all of them. So that's really fun. Like I said, you do have to pay to save the sets, but so you have to pay once to create the set. You have to pay again to save it. And then once you've saved it, you can apply it whenever you want freely. And here's the real cool thing about this new transmog system. So you can put your transmog sets on your toolbar. So you can just hit an action key and it'll flip you into the correct set of gear. Or alternately, you can set transmog based on location and activity. So you can have, you put on your your skywriting transmog that you got from doing all of the races, you can have that put on automatically every time you get on your mount. You can have it put on your raid gear every time you zone into a raid, or put on your housing gear every time you zone into your house. So the system itself looks really good, really robust. Watch the video. I would definitely check it out if you're still unsure about how the transmog works. And we'll find out more as we get closer to midnight and things get a lot more stable with the beta. But as it stands right now, this is what we're getting as far as transmog go. So I'm really excited about this. I love transmog. I feel like transmog is the true end game of World of Warcraft. So I definitely think this is a huge win for players and transmog enthusiasts and collectors alike. So, all right, let's move on to this week in World of Warcraft. The bonus event for this week is the Battleground bonus event. You're going to get the buff Sign of Battle. Honor gains from Battleground objectives and wins increased by 50%. And you can pick up the quest A Call to Battle from Archivist Thrune in Dornegal to win 4 Battleground matches, and you will be rewarded with 175 conquest and 5 marks of honor. The other bonus event for this week, because of the turbulent timeways, is Mists of Pandaria Time Walking. So you will get the Sign of the Mists buff, and that is Mists of Pandaria reputation gains from combat and quests increased by 50%. You can pick up the quest A Shrouded Path Through Time from Archivist Thrune in Dornegal to defeat 5 time walking dungeons, and you will be rewarded with a hero track raid item. The 5 or 6 time walking dungeons are Gate of the Setting Sun, Mogushan Palace, Skolomance, Shadowpan Monastery, Stormstone Brewery, and Temple of the Jade Serpent. So there you go. That's the time walking for this week. And the turbulent timeways, as I mentioned last week, but we understand things a little bit better now. So you're going to get a buff whenever you do a time walking, whether it's a low character or a high level character, it doesn't matter. You're going to get a buff, and that buff will give you 5% XP gain and some other stuff. So you can stack that buff 4 times. And once you get the 4th stack of that buff, it turns into a new buff, which gives you a 30% XP gain, which is really cool for your alts. You need to get that buff 5 times, and then you will get the achievement Master of the Turbulent Timeways 4, which will give you a voucher to purchase a Shadowlands Covenant style mount from the vendor in Oribos. Once you have done that, you can then purchase the other 3 mounts with time walking badges. So you'll be able to get all 4, but you have to do the first one and unlock it, and then you can purchase the rest. So you got to do 5 weeks of time walking to get that buff. The trick is, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but just in case, the trick for that is you get a low level alt, you do time walking, you get the buff, then you log off of that character. You don't play them. And the next week when the new time walking shows up, you log on to them. They still have the buff. You do 1 time walking. It refreshes the buff and it counts as the second one. And then the next week you do it again. 1 time walking will refresh the buff, and that's your third, etc. So if you don't want to do a bunch of time walking and you just want to do the bare minimum, that's how to do it. I guess you have to do 8 time walkings in order to do that. As long as you're not leaving that character logged on and letting the buff run off. If you let the buff go away, you'll have to rebuild it with 4 time walking dungeons. For me personally, I'm probably just going to be doing them all on my druid because he just got to level 80. So he's got garbage gear. So I'm going to get him some gear so he can be ready to go into midnight. So there you go. That's the turbulent timeways. Like I said, this week is Mists of Pandaria Time Walking. And you know, if you don't want to do time walking and you don't want to do remix and you don't want to build a house, go to some battlegrounds. The battleground bonus event is actually really fun because people will go in there who don't normally PvP because they want those marks of honor. So yeah, I like the battleground bonus event. It's fun. It's better than the arena skirmish event. The arena skirmish event sucks. Battleground bonus event is a lot of fun. It especially the epic battlegrounds, man. You go in there and it's really fun. Everybody's running together and you're all going to whatever. I don't know. It's a good time. I like it. Speaking of, the PvP brawl for the week is Packed House. This one's pretty wild. We've put more PvP in your PvP. In Packed House, there's nowhere to hide as you face not 2, not 3, not 5, but 15 adversaries in this 15 versus 15 arena battle. Yeah, this one's chaotic. When you zone in, you'll get the quest Something Different to win a PvP brawl, and you'll be rewarded with Conquest, Honor, and Marks of Honor. So if you're trying to get those good old Marks of Honor that will allow you to purchase your PvP Transmog sets, this is the one way to do it. All right. The Darkmoon Fair is still in town. It will be here until Saturday, December 13th. So make sure you get over there and get your knowledge points for your profession if you still have not maxed that out yet, which I have not. So go get your knowledge points. Do your XP and reputation buff. If it's a low-level alt, it's a 10% XP gain or a 10% reputation buff. So you can ride the merry-go-round or ride the roller coaster, and that will get you the buff. You can also purchase the hats, which will give you the buff while the Darkmoon Fair is active. Don't have your hat in your bag and then the Darkmoon Fair ends, because now you won't have it anymore. It'll go away. So yeah, just make sure that you use your hats, and that'll give you an extra hour of your buff. So yeah, Darkmoon Fair. And I just love the Darkmoon Fair. Every month I talk about the Darkmoon Fair and try and get you to go. So hopefully you're all going to the Darkmoon Fair. And then finally, starting on December 15th, is the Feast of Winter Veil, which I will talk about that probably next week. We'll talk about what's going on and if there's anything different. We don't know what the present is going to be yet this year, but we'll find that out on December 25th. So there you go. That's what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. There's a lot of activity in the game right now, and I feel like this is one of the most alive moments in WoW that I've felt in a long time. So I'm having a good time. And this is, as I've said before, WoW players right now are eating good. So enjoy. This is definitely the good times. All right, let's move on to our main topic of the week.
It's time for the main topic of the week.
So I wasn't sure how to tackle this, because right now, Mists of Pandaria Classic is in a rough spot. And if you play Classic, you are probably aware that the sentiment among the community is that Classic is dying. I don't think that Classic is necessarily dying, but I do feel like Blizzard has done themselves no favors by refusing to address the future of Classic progression. Mists of Pandaria Classic. Are we moving to Warlords of Draenor? Is it going to end after Mists of Pandaria? Are we going to transfer our characters to retail? What's going to happen? Do those MoP characters get transferred to Classic Plus whenever that comes out? There's a lot of questions that people have about this particular version of Classic. Anniversary is a known variable. We know it's vanilla and it's moving to Burning Crusade. It might move to Wrath of the Lich King. Who knows? And honestly, who cares? Because it's just a side project. It's a fun little side project. But Classic, the original 2019 Classic, that was something that the community fought hard for. And a lot of people played that game in 2019 and progressed through. We didn't even know at the time that we were going to get the Burning Crusade. We were just happy that we got Classic. It was like, this is all we wanted. We're good. And then Blizzard started dropping things for us. Oh, hey, it's going to be the Burning Crusade Classic. Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. I want to go fight Illidan again. And then it was like Wrath of the Lich King. We were like, I knew it. I knew they were going to do Wrath. And then it was like Cataclysm. And we were like, what? Okay. I mean, that's cool, I guess. You know, it gives Scotty J something to talk about. But why? Why are we doing Cataclysm? And then Mists of Pandaria, and it was like, okay, what is going on here? What are you doing, Blizzard? And I think Blizzard didn't know what they were doing. They knew that they were going to put out Classic in 2019. That was their plan. That was all they had. They probably hadn't even talked about the Burning Crusade when Classic first hit. But when they realized how successful it was, they said, we can't let this die, because that's subscriber dollars. And we've got to remember, Blizzard is a business, right? So while, yes, there is a lot of love and passion for World of Warcraft, at the end of the day, it exists to make Blizzard money, which Blizzard exists to make Microsoft money. So, but you get the idea, right? They're not doing Classic because they love you so much. They're doing Classic because people kept asking for it, and they realized, if we don't put this out here, people are just going to keep going to private servers. So we better cash in on that Classic money. And they did, and they have, and it was wildly successful. Now, though, I feel like we're at one of the lowest points we've ever been at for Classic World of Warcraft. In the last 6 years, Classic was riding high. There were even points of time where people talked about how Classic saved World of Warcraft, especially during the dark times, the Shadowland times, where people were so frustrated with the Shadowlands, they went to Classic instead, which they wouldn't have had that option in times past, but they did now, and they did go to Classic. And a lot of people who created characters in 2019 played those characters for a long time, and some still play those characters. But not knowing the future of Classic is really frustrating for a lot of people. Are we going to keep these characters? Because I'm one of those people who feel like, I don't think this is going to continue. And so I'm not going to play these characters that I've had since 2019. What is the point of playing them? If they're going to go away or just retire to some Mists of Pandaria era server, what is the point? I don't want that. I want to have a character that I can go and play and have fun with. And so even though people have been playing with their same guild maybe for 6 years, those guilds are falling apart as people leave and the raid groups decrease in size. And especially after the whole realm consolidation, a lot of guilds just didn't even bother. They thought, what's the point? We are basically not going to have Classic anymore. So what is the point of putting in effort? So I really struggled with this because I said, do I name and cover an entire phase of content for a game that is probably going to go away, and it's content that was already released 12, 13 years ago? And I decided I'm going to go ahead and do it because I love Classic. I love WoW in general, but I've always been very fond of Classic and found it to be very interesting. But it's really frustrating right now that we don't have a plan for the future. But the other thing that's really important to remember is that Blizzard didn't want to give us Classic. They said, no, you think you do, but you don't. And we said, but we really do. And then they said, well, okay, but you really don't, right? And we said, no, we really do. So finally they gave us Classic 2019. And I still, every time I watch that trailer with Chromie, where she rewinds time and it takes everything back and everything's moving so fast, and then it cuts to black and you just get the dwarf walking around the mountains of Dunmorrow with his bear pet. It makes me want to cry because it was so emotional for so many people who were like, I love this game. And Blizzard took so much of it away from us over the years. Wrath of the Lich King, they took away Naxxramas. They gave us a new version of it, which wasn't as good. They took away Nixia's Lair, which, okay, that's fine. And then Cataclysm came and took away everything. They took away the world. They took away dungeons that we can't ever experience in the original way again. At least that's what we thought at the time. Now we can, sure. But our characters that are in retail right now can never go back and do those old dungeons. They gave us Classic time walking. They couldn't even give us the original version of those dungeons. They gave us the modern version with a vanilla-ish type of mobs in there. It's weird. The Classic time walking is so cursed right now. It's just bad. So Blizzard finally gave us that in 2019. They gave it back to us, which we hadn't had before. The only way to play all of that content was to do it illegally. Nostalrius was a hit for a reason. People wanted to play it, not just because they didn't feel like paying for a WoW sub. They wanted to run that old content. And when Blizzard finally realized that and they gave us Classic, it was great. We had 4 years of good times where we were enjoying Classic. 5 years, actually, where we were enjoying those old dungeons, those old raids, doing those things that we all remembered doing when we were in our formative years. Some of you, I was in my 20s, but still, I remember it very fondly. And then they took it away again. They gave us Cataclysm Classic and took away all that stuff that they gave us. And so to me, I never understood the whole idea of moving to Cataclysm and not giving people the option to say, no, I'd rather stay at Wrath of the Lich King. No, they just forced everyone to Cataclysm. And yes, I could go play Classic Era, or now I'm playing Anniversary, and that exists. And we've had Season of Mastery and Season of Discovery. Yes, those things all happen. But people who created their characters in 2019, who still had those characters 5 years later that they were playing, now lost that again. And it sucks. So, yes, I struggled with this because I didn't know how to cover this and whether I was just going to mention it in the news or do a full-blown segment on it. And I decided I wanted to do the segment because I wanted to get this little monologue out there and talk to the people and maybe even talk to Blizzard. I don't know if anyone from Blizzard has ever even heard of my show, but I have a platform and I'm going to use it. So there you go. All right. Mists of Pandaria Classic Phase 3, the Thunder King, is now live on servers. The raid itself will be going live tomorrow. By the time you listen to this, it'll be today. But yeah, so here's what's available now in Mists of Pandaria Classic. So there are 2 new zones, the Isle of Thunder and the Isle of Giants. The Isle of Thunder is a big quest hub where the raid is located there, and there's a bunch of daily quests that you can do. It's actually really cool. I think the Isle of Thunder is one of the coolest kind of patch zones that they've ever come up with. Yes, you couldn't fly there, and that was frustrating. But the mob design, the questing, everything about it felt really good and really cool. To me, that's like the prototype for modern World of Warcraft patch zones. What we have now and that we take for granted, Undermine and Karesh and whatever all these different zones are. Isle of Thunder was one of the original prototypes for that. We had a few. There was like the Molten Front dailies that you could do in Mount Hyjal, and there was the Argent Tournament and Ice Crown. Yes, there have been ones in the past, but this one is one of the best that they've ever done. And it set up the success for the Timeless Isle still to come in Mists of Pandaria Classic. So we'll get there in probably, I don't know, a few months. But the Isle of Thunder is great. And then the Isle of Giants is just a bunch of dinosaurs, and you can go farm your giant dinosaur bones. So that one's really cool too. There are 2 new world bosses, one in each of the new zones. So there's Nalak the Stormlord on the Isle of Thunder. He drops normal tier 15 legs and gloves plus PvP gear. And then Undasta, who's on the Isle of Giants, this is a giant T-Rex. He drops normal tier 15 chest, waist, hands, and a ring. And then he drops necks. So yeah, that's what you're getting from the world bosses. So make sure you run those once a week. The legendary quest line will continue on with Rathian as he continues his quest for power. The whole Rathian storyline in Mists of Pandaria kind of cracked me up, but you will be able to get a legendary gem that you can put into your helm from Throne of Thunder. So yeah, it's pretty cool, I guess. I don't know. I mean, let's not forget that this whole storyline with Rathian is what led us to Warlords of Draenor. So, I'm just saying. There are 3 new factions that you can earn favor with. There are faction-specific factions. So there's an Alliance one, which is the Kirin Tor Offensive, and then there's the Horde one, which is the Sun Reaver Onslaught. And you will earn reputation for them by doing the story campaign and the daily quests on the Isle of Thunder and all of that sort of thing. So those ones are really cool. You get kind of like world quests type item level. So in modern WoW, if you're doing a world quest and you get a piece of gear and you're like, wow, it's great for an alt, but it really doesn't help my main. This is gonna be the same thing. So you're gonna get 476 waist that you can purchase for gold at Honored, and then a 496 back that you can purchase for Valor points at Revered, and then a 496 ring that you can purchase at Exalted for Valor points. And then when you get to Exalted, you can also purchase the Direhorn mount. I think it's like 3,000 gold. It's just a Triceratops looking mount. Theirs are fine. I'd never purchased that back in the day because I didn't care. I'm not a big fan of the dinosaur mounts personally, but that's just me. A lot of people really like them, so that's cool. And then there's a new neutral faction, which is the Shadowpan Assault, and that is going to get you'll get reputation for them for killing Throne of Thunder trash and bosses. So your rewards for that are going to be at Friendly. You can purchase a few different slots of gear for Valor points, 522 item level gear. And then when you get to Exalted, you can purchase 522 item level shoulders for gold. So really good ways to gear up your characters once you are already level 90 and go do that content. they started putting catch-up gear in the game back in vanilla, but they didn't quite know how to do it. And I feel like this is one of the better implementations of catch-up gear, because you can bring in a fresh level 90, take them to the Isle of Thunder and actually do the quests with your gear, but you're going to be able to earn really good rewards after you've been there for a while. So I feel like it's a really good way to get catch-up gear for your alt. So I really like their implementation of that. Again, Mists of Pandaria, now we know, is like retail light. So if you look at modern WoW and then you look at Mists of Pandaria, you're like, oh, this kind of looks the same. It's not, but it is a very similar, it's the same type of game. That middle tier of WoW, that middle section, the Cataclysm, Mists of Pandaria, and Warlords of Draenor, was the transition from original WoW, which was vanilla, Burning Crusade, and Wrath, and now modern WoW, which is Legion and beyond. So that's why it feels similar, but not quite the same. So, and then there's 2 new rare spawns that you can get. These are the Zandalari War Scout and Zandalari War Bringer. They'll spawn random locations all over the world, or all over Pandaria, except for the Valley of the Four Winds. So if you find them and kill them, they have a chance to drop a reputation token. And there are 3 different dire horn mounts that you can get from those as well. So yeah, check out those. And the rare spawns, they're not hard. The hard part is actually finding them and have them not be tagged by the opposite faction. So, and then there's a few things that were done. These are the classic only changes, right? So these are new changes that are being made to this version of the game for classic. So first off is the Celestial Dungeons. The Celestial Dungeons are moving to Season 2. And so you can get Throne of Thunder items from the Celestial Dungeons. I don't think it's the actual Throne of Thunder gear. I think it's the equivalent item level or something. I'm not sure how that works exactly. I've never done a Celestial Dungeon. As I said, I didn't bother leveling up my character in Mists of Pandaria. So, but you'll get those, and there's updated buffs that you're going to be able to get, and then there's a new lightning inspired affix. If you're not familiar with Celestial Dungeons, they're basically like the Mythic Plus versions of Classic. And then there's challenge mode dungeons. They have a new platinum rank, and they are going to, you have to do it faster than gold rank. And when you do it, you're going to get valor points and platinum coins, and the platinum coins will give you the ability to purchase pets, toys, transmogs, mounts, and different sorts of things. So that's pretty cool. I never did the challenge modes back in the day because I was like, no, that's too much work. And then finally, the Thunderforged gear. So this one's a little weird. So in original Mists of Pandaria, you could get Thunderforged items, which had a higher item level, and that was it. You would get those, and so if you got lucky, you would get your best in slot item, and it was Thunderforged. If you were unlucky, you'd get your best in slot item, and it wasn't Thunderforged, and so you felt bad about it, and you still needed to farm that item to get the Thunderforged version. Blizzard have done away with that. So now what's going to happen is your Thunderforged gear will be 6 item levels higher, and if you have non-Thunderforged gear that you're going to get from the raid, you can upgrade it with Valor points. So it's 250 Valor points for each upgrade, 500 total, and that will get you up to the Thunderforged equivalent of item level. So it just gives you an early advantage, but it doesn't give you a permanent advantage, as people can still get their gear to that point by spending the currency. So for the first 4 weeks, it's going to be Valor points, and then after that, it's going to be Justice points, 1,000 Justice points per upgrade, so 2,000 total. Items that cannot be upgraded are Celestial gear. You cannot upgrade because they do not have Thunderforged variants. Tier gear, same thing, they cannot be upgraded. And the Valor and Reputation gear from the Shadowpan Assault cannot be upgraded for the same reason. These all do not have Thunderforged variants, therefore they cannot be upgraded. So anything that has a Thunderforged variant is eligible for an upgrade. And it's really just the regular gear that drops from the raid. That's pretty much it. So there you go. That's the classic changes for Mists of Pandaria Classic Phase 3. And then the final thing that we'll talk about is the raid. So Throne of Thunder is a new raid. It releases on December 11th at 3 p.m. Pacific time. So probably by the time you listen to this, it will be live, but just in case sets the time. There are 13 bosses total. So there's 12 bosses and then a heroic only boss. So the first 3 bosses are Jinrock the Breaker, Horadon, and Council of Elders. This is, if you do it on LFR, this is the last stand of the Zandalari. And it's kind of it's a cool intro. I actually like these 3 bosses. Next up is the Forgotten Depths. That's Tortos, Megara, and Jikun. And then you have Halls of the Flesh Shaping, which is Darumu, the Forgotten, Primordius, and Dark Animus. And then finally, Pinnacle of Storms, which is Iron Quan, Twin Consorts, and Leishen, the Thunder King. And the heroic only boss is Ra-Den. If you did the legendary questline in Battle for Azeroth, where you have to go back to Pandaria, you might remember talking to Keeper Ra, and that's who we have to fight. And that fight, I remember being controversial at the time because you only had a certain number of attempts, so people were trying to hack it, and Blizzard ended up not. It was a bad implementation, and I'm glad they've stopped doing the 1 heroic only bosses and 2 the limited number of attempts. I like the secret mythic boss mode much better. So that's what's going on there. Throne of Thunder is a great raid. To me, it's one of the best raids that Blizzard have ever done for WoW. It's certainly in that. So that you have the top 3 raids for that middle tier that I was talking about. You have Firelands from Cataclysm, Throne of Thunder from Mists of Pandaria, and Blackrock Foundry from Warlords of Draenor. Those 3 raids are all super good. There are other raids that are really good, but those 3, they're some of the best raids. And Throne of Thunder is probably my favorite of those 3. It's just a good raid. It's a good length. It's a good, it has a good vibe. You're going through different sections. It feels good. The only complaint that people had about it is that it was completely linear. So there's no checkpoint where you can be like, all right, we can't kill that boss because our top healer's out today. Let's go to this other boss and see if we can kill that one instead. You can't prog, or you can't change your prog with Throne of Thunder. It doesn't work. You have to go in order. So yeah, I mean that's not a big deal. It's just, it is what it is. I just think that I think this raid is great. I think it's one of my favorite raids of all time. I don't know that I'd put it top 5 necessarily, but it's certainly top 10. So yeah, there you go. That's Throne of Thunder, and the Lei Shen fight is actually really, really fun. I remember doing that one back in the day. The guild that we were in, the one that forced me to be a balance druid, we did that one on normal, and I was like, man, that's a really fun fight. And then when we tried to do it on heroic, I was like, oh, this is a hard fight. It was tough. Anyway, I'm no longer with that guild, so things happen. But that's it. That's what's here now for phase 3. We don't have a clue when the next phase is going to be. It'll probably sometime in maybe February or March. I would suspect that they'll probably get phase 4 before we get Midnight, just so that it's not, you want to have Midnight and season 1 of Midnight to have the spotlight for a good 3-week period. So all right, and I think that's it. That's going to wrap up our show for today. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. I really do appreciate it. It is always a pleasure and a privilege for me to get on this microphone and speak to you. And if you are enjoying the show and you would like to help us out, you could consider leaving us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, or a 5-star rating and a comment on Spotify. Those both really help out the distribution. So if you're able to do that, great. If you can't, it's okay. I understand. But yeah, those ratings really help a lot. I think most people don't realize that it does so much for the discoverability of the podcast. So, and then if you want to do a little bit more to help us out, if you're really enjoying the show, you could consider joining our Patreon. Our Patreon is where people can give their IRL money to help out with the production costs and supporting of the show. So we have 3 different tiers of patrons. We have our free tier, and then we have our standard tier, which is $1. And then we have our friend of the show tier, which is $3. So I'd like to thank our friend of the show patrons now. That's Judge Omni, Stuglife, Thelial, Greybeard, Raven, and Macus. Thank you all so much. You guys definitely help make Azeroth United possible. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can reach me on Twitter or Blue Sky. I am at Denethar on both of those platforms. Or you can find me on Discord. That's probably the best way. You can jump onto the Azeroth United Discord by going to AzerothUnitedPod.com. Join the Discord. You can message me on there, or just pop in and say hi on the Discord and bare your soul. Tell us all what you're thinking, and tell us what you think about housing, because I definitely want to see pictures of people's houses. So if you want to get on there and you want to share your house, please, I'd love to see it. And that's gonna be it. So thank you again. I really do appreciate it. You guys are the best. It's been so much fun doing this podcast, and I'm really having a good time. So I'm glad that people are enjoying and listening, and I'm able to entertain you for an hour every week. So, all right. Thank you again. Take care. I love you all, and I'll see you in Azeroth.